Welcome everybody to this week's Timeline Jumping Q&A support. And let's just give another minute for people to keep on coming on. Well, actually, let me just start off with I want to quickly mention before I forget that by the end of the second month of the course, and you have been drinking the water with all 4 codes stuck on the glass countertop container, you can actually start wearing the DNA activation codes, and then shortly after that, you can start actually taping them on the soles of your feet, facing inward. And that's certainly recommended as well. But wearing them in your pockets initially for maybe a week or 2 is still plenty. And then taping to the soles of your feet is I use a special skin tape from the pharmacy. Here in the States, it's a 3M tape. It's elastic, similar color as the skin, and that's a little softer on the skin. And definitely give that a go. If you've already been drinking the water with all 4 codes on your countertop water container. All right, good to see Miguel here. Good to see Zoe and Terry. So, okay, 5 participants. Now, this is good. I can give more direct personal questions when there's a small group. So, look, the energy is, with what's been triggered on May 1st, it's really, I don't know. There's a YouTuber, intuitive lady, Lori Ladd, or Ludd, Ludd, I think it is. Or is it Ladd? Lori, Lori. She puts out frequent short videos, and she's been fairly on the mark that I've been impressed with. Where, to cut a long story short, we're really detoxing a lot of our biggest fears. Okay, we're really detoxing the deepest, darkest stuff at this point. And even I've had to do soul fragment retrieval on occasion on my own personal, on my current incarnational childhood stuff. Some of those have been coming up. A couple from past lives, and this is just in the past 2 weeks. And I haven't had to do a soul fragment retrieval before May for quite some time. I did at least 2 ICBs whilst walking on the street, actually. When your mind sort of really starts knowing that it's all real and you don't have to see things perfectly well. I was doing it walking on the street. And that happened twice over the past 3 weeks or so. So, and before May, it would be kind of rare that I would need to do soul level work. But May, it's purging the living daylights out of all of us. So just know that it's temporary. It is part of the process of raising not just ourselves, but the whole planet onto a much higher timeline. You can't take your baggage with you. I know it's easy to forget that when you're in the throes of whatever, volatility in your personal life. But at a very deep fundamental level, there's a true, actual, fundamental matrix change, not just more light coming in, which is what we've been working so hard for. You know, if you're a 144K member, what we've been striving for so many years. And of course, you got insane resistance, more so from the etheric plane this past few days. And the light forces are addressing things like quantum mainframe computers on the etheric plane. So etheric quantum mainframe computers, before they get a grip on the one in the here on the physical plane that does exist. So, you know, the classic case of putting one foot in front of the other, doing that internal work, and you have a huge advantage that many, if not most, energetically savvy people don't have, which is you have that half-hour self-ramming retrieval audio to just put on whenever things get out of control. Now, soon, hopefully, within the next month, I'm going to work on a particular code that you wear that starts clearing the mental body. Okay, really starts clearing the mental body. It'll probably include childhood traumas, because that's a big one. Childhood traumas is the single biggest block or issue or Megillah that we generally have. And so, but part of the reason why that is because not so much because of traumas, but also because of the mental body is horribly infected with false programs, predominantly absorbed during childhood years. There's Miguel. During our childhood, where, you know, because of our 7 hertz brainwave state, we just absorb everything, everything that we hear, and it's locked in as a program, as a software that runs our lives. So a code is needed specifically for that. Sometimes you need to get more with any kind of any form of energy work. Sometimes you need to get specific enough. Not necessarily always, but quite often you need to get specific enough on what a particular category, specific enough category of issue is. So a code that works on clearing the mental body of false programs, false beliefs, predominantly absorbed deep into the subconscious, especially from the things that we heard and observed, absorbed and assimilated from childhood in particular. That's sort of like at the deepest layer. And then for the code to keep on doing that throughout all previous or past lives, throughout childhood, okay? And where we pick up 80% of our programs, beliefs, etc. Because even though most of the things that we observe or experience or hear as children, you know, the majority of it is just gross misinterpretation of what we heard, were told, or witnessed, you know, without the context that an adult mind, the discerning context that an adult mind has. And so we really absorb some horrible things, very heavy, very rigid, hard-coded, hardwired programs in our mental bodies and physical brain to a degree, you know, and our nervous system. So it'll focus on the physical as well. So hopefully I'll work on that. Hopefully as late June. So yeah, like I said, don't be too perturbed by these energies that are, I mean, Laurie Ladd used a good analogy. It's like the equivalent of pouring down the most strongest, I guess, severe, robust Drano down your drainage pipe of your bathtub or kitchen sink, whatever. And that pushing out even deeper, more rigid stuff. Okay. So that's a good analogy she used, which I agree with. Now, one thing, if you have a lot of anxiousness, let alone anxiety, stuff like that is quite often based on simply fears from beliefs or programs within the mental body. Okay. And, a core belief that you're going to not be okay. You're not going to be okay. Or you're not good enough to handle your situation, and you might be lonely as a result, or broke, or anything like that. And where there's doubts about your abilities, etc. Okay. That's a program. Okay. Typically from childhood. But even throughout, teenage, puberty and teenage years, those are still formative years, but particularly between the ages of 0, well, even at inception, all the way to 7 or 8 in particular. Those beliefs of not being able to handle something, whatever form of insecurity. Every child goes through some kind of experience or hears something to the effect of "you're not good enough," and takes it on as a program. So, it's a good idea to go to the amalgam. Use the soul fragment retrieval to go up there. Put yourself in a little quarantine sphere, and show the amalgam a fear, whatever that may be, briefly. And then see your holographic mental body. Okay, so see yourself, your physical body, then ask your mind's eye or the amalgam to show you your mental body. And, for the sake of representation, see it as a holographic blue color. And then look for any dark or black little, that could be in whatever shape. Could be a little line, like a line of code. Okay. It could be a little cube. It could be a little round sphere, or it might have some creepy crawlers around it, and you have to clear them to get to the program in the mental body. Okay. And then transmute it with white light. Okay. Now, it is possible that when you clear that, any traumas or woundings that occurred in the ensuing years after you took on that false belief or program, they may come up, which is great. Clear any blackness around it, do a soul fragment retrieval on it. The standard process. You just add this mental body part initially. All right. Have that a go, because this is you expanding your ability to work with energy. And, it's a good idea to play around with this sort of thing. Okay. You'll always be guided. All right. And again, it's another classic case of meeting God halfway, so to speak. You know, the more you walk in this direction, trying to do the right thing, the universe or your higher self, whatever your term you want to use, comes closer. Then you do this, etc. All right. So yeah, play with that limitless attitude of a child, which I always tell the 144K this. All right. All right. Let's start with the questions. For those of you who may not know, just click on reactions. And then at the bottom or at the top, depending on where you have that tray of icons. And click on raise hand. And I'll get to your questions. Let me see here. James Trickett. Good to see you on, James. Okay, wow. This one is perfect for me. I'm getting crazy fear at bedtime before work. Fear of exhaustion. Yeah. So give that a go. Now, quite often there may be an entity that might be agitating or amplifying that fear of exhaustion. Okay, so that for you, James, often their past lives, but sometimes their current life. You know, you couldn't do something or achieve something critical because you were exhausted. Okay. Yeah, probably in past life, but don't hold me to that. Do a soul fragment retrieval on that. Okay. Use the same process that I just described, add that in to the soul fragment retrieval process, that 30-minute audio or 27, 28-minute audio, and take this up to the teams, James. All right. And on the next Q&A, let us know how you went. All right. Because, yeah, fear of exhaustion, again, it depends on what exhaustion means to you. Okay. What happened? What horrible thing happened because you were exhausted? And now exhaustion is sort of like at the surface layer of something that happened, that exhaustion led to. Okay. Because sometimes when we're exhausted, we can't do, and we just have to suffer from witnessing something that you couldn't stop or change because you were exhausted. Okay. So go for it, James. Do that method. Interesting, Jim. I've got MECPS in this life. So I'm just exhausted so often and fear losing my job and remaining. Let me elongate the chat. Okay, I've got MECPS in this lifetime, so am just exhausted so often and fear losing my job and remaining income. Okay. Please clear 2 or 3 entities around that is sort of jumping all around that and obscuring what's really going on because they're feeding off the so-called loosh from that. Check your auric membrane, and you can do that now while you're on this call. Okay, pick your color that represents your outer auric membrane. See it before a bright white background. And interestingly, put us with the way psychic vision often works, put as much focus on the white background as you do on the your auric membrane and seal that, okay, using what I described in the previous Q&A. Seal that with white light so it's all that one auric membrane color. Because sometimes it's that a lot of people's internal stuff is causing a collapse of the outer auric membrane. And often when you seal your outer auric membrane, you get stable again. And when you're stable enough, you can now do that internal focus, regain composure, and do that internal work. If the overall anxiousness or anxiety, putting in your example, isn't completely gone. So yeah, show the amalgam your anxiety. Don't put up with it. Seal your auric membrane. Make a tea, since you're English, and then go up to the amalgam. All right. So and run through that process. All right. I'm also getting extreme anxiety. Yep. That could be as simple. Every time I would seal my outer auric membrane, whatever emotional volatility I had would either go completely or greatly dissipate, and I was able to do a soft rapid retrieval. Now, with anxiety in particular, after you seal the outer auric membrane, or look for a hole and seal it using the white light method that I described in the previous Q&A, check your solar plexus area of your non-physical bodies. You can see all your non-physical bodies as one holographic body. Look for any hole or whatever form of damage, and use the same white light energy to seal that. That really helps with anxiety. Okay. As a follow-up to after you've sealed your outer auric membrane. Let me just finish up on. Oh yeah, Catherine. So that advice goes to Catherine regarding extreme anxiety. Auric membrane, then, and tell me, just to confirm, Catherine, in terms of where in your body you're feeling this extreme anxiety, is it the solar plexus area? Just say yes if that is the case, just so I can confirm. Starting at any let me just finish reading out, Catherine. Starting, I'm also getting extreme anxiety starting at any little thing. Yeah, anything can trigger it. Also, brain fog. Yeah, I've been getting some of that as well. Body pain. Yep, and that's I've been getting stiffness in my upper middle back area. Sometimes it gets a little painful because it can cause inflammation on the nerves. Difficult to move. Feels like multiple traumas from early life coming up. Yes. So you know what to do about that, right? Go up to the amalgam, half an hour, soft rapid retrieval. Pretty good deal considering it's only half an hour. Feels like emotion trauma may be causing the body pain. Yeah, because dis-ease in the mental and emotional body, it can cause inflammation and stress the cells with negative low frequencies, and then they have trouble functioning, and whatever form of dis-ease forms from there. Okay, most of you know that. Feels like emotional trauma may be causing the body pain. Yes, also knees are very sore, very frustrating as reduced mobility. Understood? So when it's affecting you at the physical level, you'll want to add whatever supplement increases blood flow. Beet, or in Australia we call it beetroot powder. Magnesium, obviously. There's I've been watching these YouTube ads from a supplement company called Umzu, with a U, Umzu. And they got a product called Redwood, great for blood circulation. But make sure you do a lot of movement, Catherine. Make sure you include a lot of movement in your day. At a minimum, walking around the block twice a day. Make sure you include that. But definitely start with a soft rapid retrieval type of work. It's only half an hour. Great way to start the day on a high timeline. Okay. So yeah, even I'm feeling it physically, and I'm not an unfit guy. Okay. Let me get to. All right. Let me get to Pat, and then I'll come back to the chat box. All right, Pat, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm on the MMS for today is day 6. And I wanted to also mention that when I got the book in February, it was an awful lot for me to read, handle, take in. And I could only read very little bits at a time. I do think the water and the codes have helped me to be a little stronger so that I can read, because he requires that you read the first 6 chapters before you even begin. So I was able to do that. And I also wanted to reflect that I was a support group leader for a couple of groups, and I'm an unusually healthy person dealing with Lyme. And I do attribute a lot of that to the Rife work, 5.5 years of Rife work, so frequency treatments. And I also wanted to acknowledge that my healer friend helped me with that, and with the railroad accident that was in Ohio, Pennsylvania area. And I have thought of her as my friend, and I did not do a good job of kind of dealing with that. So I'm still working on it. And friends have been hard to get after this very large cross-country move. So I'm beyond the very starting process with the MMS. And I did want to also say that the week that I was reading this first 6 chapters, so not this past week, the previous week, I started to clean things I hadn't been able to clean and organize. It was very interesting that it was starting even before it started, before I started.
Before you started the MMS?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's probably from the codes, I suspect, because people find that they start drinking more water after sticking the codes on their glass container.
Well, I feel like I haven't been drinking enough water, but I feel like I'm also just juggling, trying to make it all work, occasionally try to do something in my life. But I do have that intention. So I think it's a good thing. It's just really hard. So you probably know that.
Yeah.
Your wife did it. So
yeah.
I hesitate to recommend it to other people just because I can see what it's taking for me to do it, to concentrate that much, and to stick with a schedule that is challenging. So every half hour or something.
Understood. So just first of all, are you using the timer on your phone? as soon as you take a dose, you hit start for 1 hour countdown on the timer on your phone, just to check on that?
Well, I've been using it to rest in between um, doses and food. So it's doses on the hour and on the half hour some food. So, and it did help a lot to read various tricks that people had done, holding their nose, adding lime drops, only fresh lime drops. Um, so, so
Good.
it is progress.
Okay. Great to hear and good on you. It does take discipline um, to learn how to do something, but you've been at it for 6 days. That's great. Now, this has triggered a severe detox.
No, it hasn't, but
Uh,
I've done so much detoxing over so many years
uh,
that, and I'm also reluctant to push. So I'm I'm at 1 drop and I need to up it. So
Soon, yeah. Yeah,
mhm.
take it easy, take it as it comes, and good on you for sticking with it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And, again, having to go through a book, that's just another thing that you just have to pace yourself with by, you know, reading a limited amount for like 20 minutes each day or night,
Yes.
because we're all busy. Again, it's amazing how simple but powerful it is using the timer on your phone. You know,
Okay.
I have my phone on aeroplane mode half the day or often, and for less interference from the electromagnetic field. And
Yes.
yeah, I use the timer quite often. So good on you, and keep at it. Again, it's easy to forget this is within the backdrop or background of massive planetary purgings.
Yeah.
That's obviously happening at the personal level as well. So, yes, not easy, but that's the nature of these times. Okay. It's within that context. That's why I say people look, just put one foot in front of the other, do what you can for yourself, make sure you certainly do your internal work as a starting point, because everyone's going through this, the whole planet's going through this one form of clearing or another, expressed in various ways, emotionally, mentally, physically. Guys going through it. Okay. Um, even the unconscious is beginning to struggle. Okay. So good on you, Pat. And yeah, keep at it.
Thank you for saying that
Uh,
about the emotional, because I think emotional has been an issue a bit. So thank you.
yeah. And you're not alone.
Yeah.
As long as you take the time, you know, until you really get that, if you're sort of new to this level of energy work, do the ICB, see how you go. But for some of you, I suggest just doing that half hour, soft frame retrieval for the mind to get used to focusing on specific things that's really coming up, um, and then go about. And then that upgrades your timeline and frees you up to be able to do the physical steps if that's required. Okay. Because it has
Okay.
happened where doing soft frame retrieval process has cleared a problem completely. That's certainly happened, when my exhaustion on one occasion or anxiety on another occasion many years ago simply disappeared. But keep in mind these days, especially since May 1st, I mean, even before May 1st, but especially since May 1st, it's just, again, the most severe Drano being poured on top of our whole auric fields. Okay. So if you find yourself doing a diaphragm retrieval process every day or every other day, yeah, that's the kind of days we're living in. Totally understandable. So, yeah, you know, do it each morning if you have to. But again, like I said in the last Q&A, always check your outer auric membrane. Pardon me. Always check your outer auric membrane first and make sure your non-physical bodies there's no holes or damage on them. Because sometimes or often it can be simple as that. Okay. And then you're back to being just fine. All right, let me return back to the chat. Okay, Zoe's next. All right. All right, so you all know what to do if you're getting any extreme anxiety or fears for that matter. Did an ICB on Thursday, did phase 1 yesterday. Excellent, Catherine. It feels like it's mostly all over. Tension in back, shoulders, hips, and legs. Because of the whole Drano detox thing going on for all of us, again, even I've been copping some sore stiffness here and there. And it's just full on since May 1st. It inevitably affects the physical body as well, with some form of stiffness, inflammation, soreness. That's because the detox is obviously happening at the physical level as well. And if you have that problem to a significant extent, or let alone severe extent, incorporate movement in your day, and you don't want to be living the sedentary life these days, that's for sure. You'll also want to go as far as, Epsom salt baths always helps, but you'll also want to do something like magnetic clay bath. Okay, magnetic clay. It's just bags of clay that have magnetic properties to it. You put, I think it's 4 half-cup scoops. Altogether it's 4, but you take a half-cup scoop, pour it in a blender, fill it 3/4 with bathtub water, blend it, and pour that in the bathtub, and do that 4 times, and lie in that for minimum 30 minutes, maximum 45 minutes. And that is a great heavy metal detox or metals detox, because of the detox going on, energetically, spiritually, it's causing physical detox to occur. And a lot of that is metals, lead, whatever form of metal, okay, and nanites that are just floating around as junk, and that can block circulation, obviously cause stiffness. So look that one up, and you may want to consider that if you're having a bit of a serious issue with body stiffness. Okay, that can inflame nerves as well. So that's another important resource. I do use this about once a month, trying to get to it once a week. So take a look and follow your guidance on that. Okay. So Catherine, it's great that you're doing the ICB and phase 1. Ironically, that may be resulting in even more physical detox because you're detoxing from the energetics. Okay. So take a look at magnetic clay bath. It's on Amazon, whatever. Or watch a couple of short videos on YouTube if you've never heard of it before. So yeah, everything's accelerated. Okay. Of whatever form of physical and non-physical detox. It feels like it's mostly all over, tension in back, shoulders, hips, and legs. Yep. Give magnetic clay bath a go. And that'll really help. All right, Miguel, you're next. Let me bring on Zoe. All righty.
Yeah, hi there.
All right, there you are.
Yeah, hi. Well, I had a quick question about my son, actually. He's 6 years old, and really ever since he was born, like he just has trouble regulating his emotions. So he's sort of prone to outbursts and like he's very impulsive and reactionary. I just wondering if you had any thoughts on like what can I do maybe energetically to help him? Like maybe get some more awareness of what's going on in there.
All right. Check for portals.
Mhm.
Check for one or two portals. They simply appear as little, well, your mind's eye, your psychic mind will show it to you as a golf ball size dark grey or black sphere. And yeah, when someone's being difficult, especially when it's, I don't know, like really difficult, if not chronically difficult, check for portals.
Mhm.
Then check for, does he often play with friends, I take it?
Well, sometimes. Yeah.
All right. Check for chords. Just turn it white and just move it outward. And then check for an entity.
Mhm.
Okay, because he could have easily been gotten boogied by whoever. All right. And he's always been at home under your watch, generally speaking? Or do you get someone to look after him when you have to work, or?
Well, he goes to school. That's
He
where
goes to
his
school.
room is. So he goes to
Okay.
school 5 days a week.
All right, so do those three things,
Mhm.
or one after the other, and then give it at least a couple of days. And then if there's no change, do a soul fragment retrieval on him.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would go through the usual process.
Same
Make things safe with
process.
him.
Same process, except you take him up with you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Does he need to be lying down? Not really necessary, in my experience.
Mhm.
And the advantage is kids respond a lot better to healing because they don't have the same mental blocks that we do.
Yeah.
You know, the rigidity of the adult mind. And he's still going through childhood. So he hasn't finished the process of absorbing all sorts of false or misunderstood programs, you know.
Mhm.
So that's an advantage if you're working with children, and animals generally respond better. Okay. So yeah, with the soul fragment retrieval process, you know, you just take him up with you, have him next to you,
Mhm.
and obviously focus on him. See how that goes, and then get in touch with me on the following Q&A. All right. After that, I mean, food allergies can cause that sort of behavior with children, you know.
Yeah.
But the beauty of doing the energetic work is that if it is something mundane, like a food allergy,
Mhm.
that'll show up. You'll, you know, all of a sudden realize it in the coming days
Yeah. I see what you
because you
mean.
cleared the garbage clouding the issue. Okay. Or you just end up on a timeline where you so-called stumble across the cause or solution. Because children, they're full of energy, very hyperactive. So he may need certain foods that have more of a balancing effect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he's allergic to a particular kind of food, like I can't have stevia, for example. You know, among other things, because it's very bad for my blood type. And kids are often more sensitive about that. They can really trigger either ADD or a particular propensity for a particular kind of emotional response to whatever stimuli. EMFs is enough to cause difficult behavior with children. Okay. I've often pointed people to get EMF protection for their house. Like smartmeterguard.com. Stick that on your smart meter because they're nasty. They are absolutely obscene. They're a weapon in a literal and deliberate sense. Wi-Fi, the same website has a Wi-Fi guard. Sure, reduces the radius or the reach of your Wi-Fi by about 20%, but boy, is it worth it. Mm-hmm. Because these things are constantly frying our cells and DNA. And, kids, they're quite often sensitive to things like that because they haven't learned or had the time to be forced to develop an immunity or a conditioning the way we have. And we just, where we numb ourselves to something and are forced to just be immune to it, which is not a good move because it involves shutting down some of our sensitivities. All right. So start with the energetics because it could be as simple as a pesky entity. Mm-hmm. It could be a portal. It could be, something he experienced during childhood. If you witness something absolutely abhorrent, so obscene, and there's plenty of that these days, or past few years, with all the woke agenda, when you were pregnant with him, even that can affect him. So don't be too surprised if during the soul fragment retrieval process you simply see a sweet little embryo. That's the term for it. So be very open-minded to what you see when doing if you need to do a soul fragment retrieval process. And go for it.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, let me quickly move on after a little sip of water. Let's bring the chat box up. Oh, hello, Melody. All right, let me see here. Oh, right, okay. So, Catherine Dahl, you said the ICB on Thursday, and then the phase 1 yesterday actually helped to decrease body pain. That's because whatever etheric or plasma parasites, entities of whatever form, they got cleared during those 2 sessions. And that decreases the pain, even though the physical pain may still be there because it's physical level problem that you still need to flush out with a magnetic clay bath, for example. But whenever we have a bodily pain, some boogie or parasite, sort of jumps on it because it's opportunity for a bit of loosh. So they agitate it to get more loosh. Not an issue in the long term, but it's an issue for the short term because most of you are 144K members. You know that they're being cleared off the planet. It's only a matter of time. We're just going through a major flush. I mean, the toilet is seriously being flushed since May 1st. Okay. So, yeah, thanks for that, Catherine. That's good to hear. James Trigger, thank you, Jim. I've got to go. Best wishes to everyone. Yep, and I'll send out the recording for this as soon as I can, in case you need it, James. And yeah, go for it. Melody, hi, Jim. If people are kind of either consciously or unconsciously psychically attacking or giving judgments towards us, what would be the source of the cause? For the most part, non-physical entities that are rip shit pissed about us clearing the non-physical planes directly, and they're just finding whatever conduit they can to get at us. So through other people, for example. Okay. That's prime 90% it, if not 100% it. So as best you can, be a little picky with who you decide to interact with. Okay. And entities on the non-physical, they're going way more crazier these days because, the waterline is really creeping up on them and they're crawling back and back along the sand and their backs up against the cliff. They're in big trouble. So that's why it's more sort of vicious, I guess, these days, not forever. Would it usually be unresolved issues within ourselves or karmic issues kind of thing? They do typically go for or jab at anything that you're predisposed to. The short answer is yes for that. That's why the more you heal and clear, there's less of them to connect with, if you will, and manipulate or agitate. Would it usually be unresolved issues within ourselves or karmic issues kind of thing? Yeah. Is it all right for pregnant women to do the ICB, etc.? Not only is it all right, it's advisable. Because the teams can work on whatever trauma your unborn child may be experiencing right now, these days, these months. Would protection protocol be recommended before doing any? Would protection protocol be recommended before doing any of the clearings? Yes, only because sometimes that's enough, or often that's enough. Especially auric membrane. People's auric membranes are really having trouble holding up these days because the severe energetic detox going on. Entities going crazy because it's all over for them. Yes. Because sometimes it removes the need. It turns out to be just a hole in your auric membrane, or you need more protection, and that's it, and you're, if you're fine again and you're at peace, calm and composed, then it was that damage on your outer auric membrane, for example, or an entity that you simply had to remove. The reason why I'm mentioning, soul fragment retrieval or ICB type of work these days is because of that severe mass drano being poured throughout the whole planet. Okay. Where often, not always, it's, simply clearing an entity or sealing your auric membrane isn't enough. It's not enough, although it does help with composure in order to do soul fragment retrieval level work. So that's why it's always your first point of call, clearing an entity or two or checking your aura. And I didn't know you were pregnant, Melody. Congratulations. Although that's a little late now. It's wonderful to hear, though. Since we're on the topic of children and unborn babies, even, anesthetic that the mother gets when the pain is just too much during the birthing process, even that affects the child. Cutting off the umbilical cord instead of leaving it on to the placenta or whatever and letting it dry up and fall off naturally, that affects the baby. That's a trauma. So being born without memory of your past lives, that's a trauma. Okay. So that's food for thought, for all of us, especially Zoe and Melody. I suppose it's a sad thing, but in another way, a good thing that you're, Melody and Zoe, we're all in a privileged position that we can do soul fragment retrievals on these specific traumas that I just mentioned before birth, let alone during birth. Okay. That'll really help lighten your frequency. Okay. All right. We're almost at the top of the hour. So I'm going to check for any last questions. So that's already another very meaty, content-rich Q&A. Clearly, it pays to be on these, And thank you, Jim, for the clarification. Yeah. As I say, Melody, clarity really is power. And often that's what you gain after clearing an entity, shutting down a portal, or sealing your auric membrane, let alone after going up to the amalgam and doing a soul fragment retrieval. You gain that clarity, clear mind, because of the clear energy. So just get used to it, get practiced at it. Back in 2013, I was getting the most, really was a drawn out clearing process to prepare me to come over to the US in 2014, early February 2014. But in 2013, I was being prepared for that. And because of false beliefs, false programs about my ability to look after myself in this world, courtesy of things like Asperger's, etc., the attacks would result in panic, never mind anxiety. So I would be going up to the teams 4 or 5 times a week, 4 or 5 days straight, back to back. That happened right throughout April and early May. Because there's always those periods of times where you're just plowing through a lot of stuff. It's just whatever astrological reason or preparing you for something to be able to reach a certain higher timeline in the coming months. And you're still here, and sometimes your higher aspects just pulls the ripcord and saying, okay, by this time you got to get up there. So you need to release this now to be able to make it there. Otherwise you might miss it. Okay. Because there is such a thing as deadlines that does exist. We'll get into a certain higher timeline by a certain time. Thank you, Christy. I think you came on late, so check out the recording. There was a lot of really good stuff. And good to see you, Miguel. And yeah, it's another classic case of a bit of discipline, understanding of the situation, and pacing yourself. Okay. And it's easy to forget, especially these days where even maintaining composure is a bit of a challenge, you know, because there's so much up that's being flushed out of the toilet, out of the planet. And our systems personally, it's hard to maintain that clarity and therefore perspective. But this Q&A, that's one of its main purpose, to give you that perspective and understanding. All right. Because the garbage is really being flushed out in a big way. So pace yourself. As always, a little bit of discipline equals freedom. All right. Melody, really appreciate the help and explanation that you've given. It makes sense with regards to the entities stuff happening through others, along with Cobra's intel and all. Yeah, that's right. So keep up with the practice. Okay, it's a weekly or daily practice, just like, you know, that basic 20-minute meditation kind of thing. And this is at least as important, if not more important. So I'll see you all in 2 weeks. And James, Zoe, Melody in particular, let me know how you go. And yeah, just go for it. So wonderful seeing you all. I'm glad I can support you. You know, that means a lot to me. And I'm going to get this recording up in the next couple of hours or so. Hi, Lisa. Thanks, Jim. Was busy, so we'll listen to the recording. Yeah, definitely listen to the recording. Some really important and cool stuff. Okay. And till next time. All right, then.